Abbey Normal and Joseph Bradley, and we are going to talk today about the afterlife.
Dun dun dun.
And we also had, so that came up as a comment. Someone wanted to know our opinion on the afterlife, and then another one was wanting to know about Seraphim Angels. Joe's going to channel a Seraphim Angel, and I'm actually going to channel a black hole. That does come from an inspiration from deep down inside myself, because we were really reflecting on everything we've seen about the afterlife. I mean, and we're talking everything we've seen about the afterlife, stuff that is going to make you, it could be like a scary movie if we were to tell you everything we've seen about the afterlife. But it also could be very beautiful too. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. There's so many. I've seen so many amazing places and things that it's like, but the. So I guess for me, when I go into the spirit realm, it is simply a reflection of what you're going into at the time. So we do a lot of shadow work, so we tend to go into people's problems. But I used to do a lot of work with my guides to help heal the world, help heal different parts of the universe. And I was in places that was absolutely extraordinary. I mean, just extraordinary. Different dimensional spaces that were extraordinary. Like, I mean, just absolutely gorgeous, beautiful places. Then you go into somebody's trauma and they're in a hell space. So the question is, what is the afterlife? In my opinion, it's really complicated because you have a lot of different parts. So one part could be at heaven, one part be in hell, and one part be everywhere in between. And because we can break ourselves up in little pieces and scatter ourselves across the multiverse. It is ridiculously complicated, but it is what it is. The afterlife is what you make it, what you believe it is at the time. So people can get trapped in a hell space of their own creation. And it could be anywhere in between up to the most beautiful place that you could ever imagine. It's just that from the most beautiful place you ever imagine, being in a loop there isn't the same as being torn to pieces repeatedly over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
All right, so I'm going to say something. I think we're trying to get our footing here. Where to begin with life after death?
It's massive.
Okay, so I think the first thing I feel inspired to say, so we've been taught that we're just one soul, right? And some people believe when you die, you just die, and that's the end of your consciousness. It just stops there. So if there's no progression, that's not how the universe actually works. The universe is constantly expanding, and all consciousness is celebrated. And no matter what spectrum from dark to light that it is, consciousness is expanding. So you as a consciousness, you have this experience, and then you're going to have another experience, but you're having simultaneous and parallel experiences. So while you're incarnate and alive, you're also in heaven, you're also in purgatory, you're also an alien being over there, you're also all these things. So if you could see yourself as the nucleus of all time, then you could see the vastness of yourself. So life after death isn't just something that happens when you die as this person, and now I'm going to go experience the universe as this person. I can come back to my higher self. I could go to source. I could have parts of myself that are incomplete from this lifetime. I mean, it's such a vast thing. You're not just one thing. You're everything.
But everything is controlled by your thoughts and what you believe in.
Consciousness.
It's like everything. So the spirit realm is what you want it to be. So I could go to a place in anywhere in the universe. You could say anywhere in the dimensional space of whatever that is, where you go to, and change the environment instantaneously just with a thought.
Yeah, but there's depth to that too. Yes. Because there's superficial and then there's deep. Mm-hmm. And how deep and deep and deep can you go? So you could say, I'm standing in a beautiful environment and birds are chirping, and that would be real, right? But if you were to wait a second and take your thoughts out of it and experience the energy that's actually existing there, you might realize you're avoiding something that you're not paying attention to, because you're listening to the sound of more of the dimensions. It's like the sacred geometry. Now imagine sacred geometry is a complex reality of all the vastness of a single soul and all its interconnected grids and how it impacted other souls, and they intertwined and became a soul, and then they broke off into 10,000 other souls and then visited a bajillion other universes, and it would all be you. Do you see? So life after death, I really want to say this, like you just die and then you go to heaven, bam, done.
No, I don't see it. We don't see it that way at all.
No.
It's a really complex subject, and the best way is if, in my opinion, you have somebody that's going to pass away. The best thing that you could teach them is to let go of everything that they feel regret with, if that's possible. To say that there is no regret, there is no wrong decisions. You have to let that energy go, because if you get stuck in the belief that you're going to go to hell, you will go to hell of your creation. Not all your soul will, though, because that's only a part of who you are. And I don't like. One example is I did a journey into one of my. It's my first girlfriend. She was murdered and thrown overboard. I did a journey into that, and one of the things I seen is part of her soul when it hit the surface of the ocean. It sunk down into the very bottom and the depths, and then it hit the actual ocean floor and shattered. Her soul literally just shattered into like hundreds of thousands of pieces. And some of them went really deep and some of them didn't. So trauma in itself creates its own fragmentation. So when you die, your soul is fragmented if it's not at peace. If you're completely at peace with everything in your life, you're going to go into heaven, you could say, in a heaven type space, or one of your wanting, or one of your liking, and one of what you want to create. You're going to go into a space that you want to go to if you're at peace. And however, if you're not, you will get shattered. And that's the one part that I think a lot of us do to ourselves, because we have so many unresolved issues that we get attached to something. You could be attached to a house, an object. Like, I'm never going to let that son of a bitch get that. So you could be, and then so when I die, I'm going to be there, and part of your soul will be with that item, and you will curse and whatever you can to get that person not to have that item. But that part of your soul will be stuck there. And that's a shame, because it's a thing. It's not anything more than what it is. So that's what you got to be careful of, in a way, is not to get yourself physically attached to something on this planet, because we are energy, and the physical reality is just a temporary existence. And when we go away, that we can let go of all this stuff and move into who we truly are. So
I'm just thinking right now of what would be what would be a really good way to walk someone through. Okay, I liked how you brought up, let's say I have a family member who's going to pass away soon. The most important thing that they could know, like Joe's saying, that anything that might have been, they had let you down in all these ways, like forgiveness is a really powerful tool. You'll actually realize in time that it's not, forgiveness is only an illusion of they did something wrong, they hurt you, you felt hurt by what they did. But if you realize that we're actually learning and we're grateful for the learning, then there's no real reason for forgiveness. But it is very powerful in our world, because when we can deeply accept someone for all their faults, and if we can help them to accept themselves for all their faults, that soul is so released from so many burdens, so many strings attached. And so when the soul transitions, they'll have to face the mirror of themselves. So we were taught, Christianity would be teaching you that God judges you, but you're God, right? So you're going to judge yourself. You are going to be the harshest critic, because you're going to see the vastness of how all of your decisions have impacted every single thing in the universe and time. And obviously, the closer and closer and closer it was to you and your exchanges, the more impact it's going to be on your soul. So you're going to actually see how you impacted your kids, how you impacted your parents, what your parents really thought, what you really thought about yourself. And all of it's going to feel like... you're going to see what you could have done if you would have done this. You're going to see everything. And you're going to feel so let down by yourself, so frustrated with yourself, so embarrassed, so ashamed, so much hate towards yourself, all that stuff. That's actually raw, genuine truth. And it's flippin' beautiful. when you're in it and it's all happening to you, it's the worst, right? But if you could be strong enough to see that all of that is the love that makes you the most beautiful, you'll start to understand the power of forgiveness. It's what Jesus is all about. That's why Jesus was just such an essential guide for our planet, and his meaning is such a good essential guide for our planet, because it reminds you about the power of forgiveness and how that sets you free into heaven. Otherwise, souls are embracing of this. Mm-hmm. They want to come back and do it better. They want to come back and overcome what was the veil that had made it so they couldn't see clearly. And their regrets, they want to resolve their regrets. They want to come clean with their soulmates. They want to come clean with those that are closest to them. But the thing is, see the vastness of how it impacted the whole universe. Couldn't even imagine it, right? And so for you to understand life after death, it's important to understand, where do you want to be. You want to be free, okay? So do you want to work on you want to work on things? You want to be free? You got to work through that, okay? Complex event. But essentially, you already are in all time. And so if you're already in all time, you're already at the beginning and the end, and you're going to be reborn in the next cycle of eternity, but you would already be there anyway. So where do you exist in time? And that's the complex part about being human and what we perceive as time and our existence and what happens after this existence. You would be best to come to awareness that you are more than just a automaton just walking around. You just die and you just become part of the earth. No, you're part of creation, and creation never dies. It just keeps expanding. Anyway,
it's okay. It's there's just so much to talk about, because in a lot of ways you're probably better off just breaking down little portions. Like I've actually seen souls preparing to die. So I did a journey into the just before, like literally the person died a few hours afterwards, and it was extremely beautiful. Like it was an amazing experience. And I seen souls actually die when I was doing a journey, and I seen some pretty strange things occur. And there was 4 beings that appeared, and it was just a dog though. Somebody asked me to go look at their dog, and there was these 4 beings that appeared in each corner of the room, and the dog died. And as soon as it died, these 4 beings sent this energy that separated the physical body from the spirit. And everything that happened in the dog's life was recorded by these beings, and this is their job. So when somebody dies, they go to that and they separate the physical from the physical bodies. However, it is different when there's a traumatic event and your body's ought to be tore apart. That is a different situation, when most times that's what happens in that version of what they showed me. Now, it's interesting because not everything's the same. The other version with events, I went underneath the roots of a tree, and the man was lying down. There was all these people helping, preparing him to die, and he had a decision to make. He could live a little bit longer, or he could just make a decision to move on with his life, but he would be in pain and suffering for another 2 months, for instance. And it was just a really interesting thing, and it was beautiful to me because I was able to go in to tell everything that was happening to the person that wanted me to do this, and I relayed a really beautiful message to him and his family, and they were able to. And it's right after I sent that, he passed away within hours after that journey. But that really hits home to the person that's listening, and the decision that was being made and what was being said. It helped relieve them. And sometimes that is so important, because the person that dies is like, hey, I'm right here. I'm okay. Everything's fine. But the family is not.
Yeah.
Your wife is not. Your children are not. And that's also part of this whole thing. And the afterlife is simply a vast, unbelievably complex thing. It's not simply just heaven.
Yeah.
Heaven, but you could live in a heaven. Mm-hmm. And at a beautiful place that you stay there for a certain period of time. But your soul could also be simultaneously in hell. Mm-hmm. And the parts of suffering, because you're not allowing yourself to forgive yourself. You're not allowing yourself to forgive yourself. because you're the one that created the hell. Not Satan, not Lucifer, yourself. You're the one that created the unforgiving aspect of yourself and say, I'm going to punish myself. And I've seen some pretty horrible hell spaces.
Yeah.
And the problem is that when you're in that state of mind, you have other energy beings that will come to you to keep you in that state of mind, to help prevent you from leaving. Because when you're in a certain state of mind, you attract other likeness energies to yourself. And so if you're in a beautiful place, you attract beautiful energies. If you're in between place, you do the same thing. And if you're in hell space, you do the same thing. So it complicates your situation, and you could be in a loop for a very long time because these beings don't want you to ever leave. However, at some point in time, in another lifetime, another part of yourself is going to help your ass to get out of there, because they know you're there.
Time is very, very interesting.
Yes.
Because when is it time, you know? And remember, you can parallel what we're talking about here with the energy world, the spirit realm, with your human life. Because even as you're going through this human life, you're actually setting parts of your soul fragments free just by working through those lessons and hardships, because they might parallel what put you in that place in the first place from some other lifetime. So let's say you're going through this like horrifying dark night of the soul, and you're actually enduring this out of love and compassion for a part of yourself that couldn't conquer the lesson in this other lifetime, and then this other complex version of it, and this other complex version. You're actually setting a bunch of yourselves free. You're harmonizing the pond and the ripples of all of that you've ever experienced and done, which is actually harmonizing the pond for all of us. So everything that we go through in each individual human life is helping everybody here on earth and in the whole universe. When we get through these lessons, it's rippling information out from earth as a nucleus of itself out into the cosmos, and it's teaching and it's growing and expanding all consciousness. So yeah, go ahead. I wanted to say something else.
Go ahead.
Because you were also making me think of, okay, so you have the average human. We're kind of talking about like your basic human scenario, working through family relationships, kids, what worked and didn't work, devastation, things you should have done and you never did, all that stuff, right? And you're in this transition process, and it can be hard to figure out how to let go of your physical body because you're going into an inconceivable reality, but you're not really. It's going to be extremely familiar for you, especially when you learn how to let everything go. But now let's say you're somebody who you're insecure, okay? And there are depths to insecurities that would blow your freaking mind. But insecure people attract really influential demonic explorations, okay? So you could be channeling manipulative beings that are going to help you and your insecurities to protect you from all the people that are going to tell you the truth, all the people that are going to guide you into the light and love. Your insecurities are going to put you in a prison, and they're going to inspire you to make horrifying decisions. You need to kill this person, this person, this person in order to save yourself, and then you need to do all these sick rituals in order to blah, 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 and then you can imprison all these people, and you're going to put more money in your pocket, and blah, 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 blah. All that stuff has to be reconciled. Again, you're going to end up seeing how every single decision, because when your soul is exposed, oh my God, you're going to be so naked to the universe, and you are going to be an ugly freak in the energy world, and you're going to be against all the echoes of every scream of terror that you ever inflicted in the world, that hated you, that was screaming for you to stop, that was in agony, and you didn't care. All right, because you're so insecure. You're the most freaking selfish person on the planet. So you actually have to reconcile all those sounds. So you can see how an insecure person has a great deal of work to do, and how horrifying that is going to look when it comes to an incarnate state. So yes, there is a lot. So what happens when you die? Your actions really will have to speak for themselves, and how you feel proud of who you are. But there's other souls that say, I will never let, like, okay, you do this to me, I will not put up with this. I will haunt you for however many lifetimes it takes. And now imagine you have 10,000 people that hate your guts. Imagine being a leader and you have all these, but their hatred towards you could be an illusion of their own kind, or their hatred towards you is their misinterpretation. And so that you can send energy back. You
your own
can
entrapment.
yeah, so you can be your own person that, you know what, I did do all these things. It's horrible what I did. I want to work on making better decisions, or I see now what I fell into. Oh my gosh, you know, and you can work with the light, or you can hide from the light. You can continue to live lifetimes of doing the exact same thing because you don't want to change. And so you see how what happens when you die echoes back to how you live again. And it echoes back to how you live again and how you live again. And people want to know how to get out of reincarnation, but your soul chooses this. Like you're choosing your lifespan through the physical life and what is beyond the physical life. And I'm telling you, Joe and I have seen some crazy stuff. This is where I'm talking about scary, okay? Because
but lovely too.
I know. And we'll talk I have to say this, okay? So way back when, somewhere around 2015, when I started making like videos of me, my face like talking, I remember I went into the Illuminati, and it was the first time I'd ever seen something so strange. But I kind of sensed this, but it had to do with the Egyptian pyramids, but it had to do with pulling in souls. Souls are batteries. I mean, souls are infinite energy. Souls are infinite energy. Now imagine if you could harness the infinite energy of a single soul. That's infinite energy. Now what can you do with 10 million souls? And so you can pull souls in to harness and use, control and contain and use, suck the infinite energy from these souls forevermore. And we've come across spaces where souls have been put into devices or put into places, somehow contained and controlled and harnessed for infinite energy. And it has, even though civilizations have completely died out, but the souls are still there. And so you could see cycles of eternity, okay? Like sediments, you know, you could see the mountain, and then there's all the different layers of sediment and how they all compacted. Now imagine you go through all these infinite cycles and you go back and you're like, holy smokes, your soul is still attached to this old event where you were being used as a tool to, basically like a battery to do this. And it's like
just a fragment
that could be your afterlife.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be stuck in there for a long time.
But this is a fragment of what you really are, who you really are. They can't take your full soul and try and trap it.
Exactly.
Only just part of it. Though.
Just part of it, because you're so ridiculously infinite.
And you do have the ability to. You could say that I want to journey into every part of my soul that's trapped somewhere, and you can go in and start pulling those pieces back to yourself and healing them. You'd be surprised how many pieces you have.
Right.
You would never do it in one lifetime. You wouldn't do it in 20 lifetimes, 30, 40. You could go on. Because it is ridiculously complex, your soul, and how it's like, what is your soul though? If you look at that, you're part of God and we're part of each other. Maybe every single part of God is scattered throughout the universe, and that's also part of yourself. You start to get the understanding how complex this could become. And I think to really bring it down to a reality, like to more of a physical construct, when we die, the best thing that we could ever do is forgive ourselves and forgive the people that have ever done us any wrong. Because taking that energy into the spirit realm can create problems for ourselves. So the more we can bring ourselves into a state of peace and happiness, the better off we're going to be. When we die, we're going to take more parts of ourselves into the higher dimensional spaces. There's going to be lifetimes that you could come back, and your sole purpose is to bring all these parts of yourself that are lost back into yourself. So it could go on and on and on and on and on. There's so much stuff that can be done in a lifetime that you're not even aware. You could be somebody that, for instance, was born with juvenile ALS, for instance, and at a very young age, you're in a wheelchair. You can even eventually not speak. You could be stuck in that state in a broken body for almost your whole entire life, and you can live to 80, 90 years old. Right. What happens if that lifetime, it was simply you came here and you were put in a situation where you didn't have to do anything? Really, very little to do, and everybody else takes care of you. But that gives you an ability to do journeys every single day to bring parts of yourself back into balance. take things from the dark into the light. So when we look at somebody with juvenile ALS, we might not realize that their purpose is well beyond what a normal person would be able to do, because they're always in their mind. They're always in their heart. And they can do extraordinary things in the spiritual realm that we wouldn't be able to do, because we have to work, we have to feed ourselves, we have to do this, and this. So it gives them the ability to have way more time. Like, it just shows that we don't understand the complexities of life, and when it comes to why a person is the way they are. Yeah. And you say, why? We always point a finger, it's God's fault. No, it's not God's fault. We choose to come here in these fucked up versions of ourselves, because it gives us the ability to learn in a different way, and gives us the ability to do something in a different way. So we got to stop blaming other people for the things that we choose before we come here in the first place. Yeah. So it's like, if you're born into a body that's broken, you came here with a broken body in order to have a specific purpose and meaning in life.
If you can, because it's interesting, because what happens in life after death is also what you're enduring with your life. It's because, I mean, we're human here, so we feel like we should have more of an expanded knowing, we should have more clarity, but you have to work with what you don't know, and find the strength of what you're called to do. Are you called to work with your heart? Are you called to be insecure and not want to face the reflection in the mirror across all the faces of everybody that is reaching their hand out to actually help you? Like, you get to decide how you're going to work with what you've got, right? And how you're going to make the most of it. And no matter what your circumstances, even if it is really defeating, and based upon what you wanted to get out of this life, I wanted to meet my soulmate and have kids. I just wanted a simple life, and I never got that. I got this. I was abused. I was, all of these things. And you're going to have to be okay with the way it turned out. And then you're going to have to find the strength to find the strongest part of yourself, to have pride in who you are, and be a leader through all of this. Like, heal it, hold it, cry with it, feel defeated by it. In time, you'll go through all these stages and then look back and say, wow, look at everything I went through. Look at how it created this person that I am. And maybe you just don't know how to overcome some of this stuff yet. But there are parts of you that are helping you right now, that are actually incarnated. And this was back, I would have been in my mid-20s. This was really challenging for me, because I had been through a lot of, like, I'm talking like soul-shattering experiences that were unacceptable, that were so imbalanced, so unjust, and I had to just, I had to live with the way things are, and I have to make the best decision I can as I'm guided by my heart, no matter how people see me, no matter how people don't understand me. I have to follow my heart. And there was one time I was, going to bed, and there were other parts of me that had come, and they were living these beautiful lifetimes in other planets, and I hated that. I hated them. It's like, why did I have to be the part of us that had to come here to endure all this stuff, and you guys get to go have these beautiful lifetimes? Screw you. I don't want your help. Screw you people. When they're actually just like, we know you're in pain. That's why we're coming here to help you, because we feel your pain in our beautiful lifetimes, and our beautiful lifetimes are here to feed you, to help you conquer this stuff so that you don't break. We need you to stay strong through all of this, because you were courageous to live this lifetime. You were courageous enough, and we respect you for that. We love you for that. That's why we're here living these beautiful lifetimes, to empower you through this difficult one. And when you are gone and far from this life, you will be a part of us too, as we will be a part of you, and we will be grateful for one another as one whole being. And it's like, it took me a lot of years actually to accept my awareness of that conversation. That's what psychic awakening, spiritual awakening is all about, is these realities. It messes you up inside, because in ways that you would hear me say this and say, oh, that's cool. Oh, I can understand why you wouldn't have liked them. But it's really nice to hear that. when you're in the thick of the quicksand that's sucking you underneath, and you have these all happy faces that want to, you know, and it's like rubbing in your face what they have and what you don't have, and it's really loud and conflicting in there. But you have to work through this like existential truth, this like multi-dimensional sacred geometry level, complex, deep and rippling and riveting, challenging and beautiful truth, and you change, you grow into a new level of I guess you could just say harmony with it all.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
well, yeah. It's a lot of stuff.
It is a lot of stuff.
Like one of the things that we come here sometimes. So you look at a bully. A bully bullies somebody, and the bully and that person that they're bullying, it lives a specific way of suffering, and a bully lives a specific way of suffering. And then you want to know what the bully dies and says, well, what is it really like to be somebody that's being bullied? And then you will switch places, and you'll be bullied throughout your whole life, and you can never. So there's so many complexities of decision makings. For instance, you could be a murderer in one lifetime and say, well, what it would be like to be the victim, and then you'll switch roles, and then you'll be the victim. And it's like, this is what we do. This is not simply, the afterlife isn't simply just beautiful. We go through different aspects of every aspect of life in order to grow. But then there's other parts of ourselves that are sitting up there that are taking everything that we're learning, and it's filtering up into a higher self, you could say. But when I look at my higher self, I have one higher self that is connected to many different versions of it. So if you look at your higher self, you can see it as this is the highest version of who I am. And all the other aspects of different aspects, you could say the yin and yang, and you could put a circle, that light and dark, all the way through to the most beautiful angelic version of yourself that has exactly light and dark equally, blah blah blah. It's basically the highest version of yourself, and you go through all the light sides of yourself and all the dark sides of yourself, and then the one underneath, which is the worst of all of them. So, but it's not that completes who you are in your higher selves. And then you got all the lifetimes that filter in to them. And that's ridiculously complex, because you could simply say that you could just simply break it down into lawful good to lawful evil and everything in between. And every aspect of life that you lived a lawful good life has ridiculous amount of lifetimes. You could have billions of lifetimes just in that one. And every other aspect has billions of lifetimes. So it's ridiculously complex, but we live every part of that at some point. And the more we live, and the more we learn, the more we grow, the more awakening we become. So if you look at her, like the so-called elites, I can't stand that name, they're actually very young souls that are still learning a lot of stuff, because they wouldn't be in a situation if they truly understood. Or they're living a lifetime based on something they needed to learn in that part they didn't learn yet. So it is so complex that that's why it's so hard to judge people, because you could be judging a version of yourself that is trying to learn and what it's like to be. Because you could say a person that is a child molester, why would anybody ever want to know that? But maybe some part of yourself just wants to know what that would be. Well, how is it possible to be somebody like that?
Imagine being judgmental to someone like that, and now you're the person that you would judge the most cruel and most harshly.
I know.
Instead of finding the solutions.
It's so complex. It's
so much. It's all about what is the depth of the harmony of what we're trying to achieve here. But we are taking so many rules and exploring what that experience is all about. And hating ourselves for it or finding forgiveness for it is part of that learning too.
If we don't know why something is, we could live a whole lifetime trying to figure that out. So we could say that, how can a person kill someone? We could learn we could be put in a specific meat suit that has overwhelming urges to do that. And then we go in there and we live that lifetime, and now we know everything about what it's like to be a murderer. It's kind of what it's like.
But not only that, because it's like that's kind of the basic. Because
Yes.
after you choose to explore that, you're tied to whatever you can't let go of about it. And that could be now the branches, million branches of a tree that you still have to reconcile wanting to know what that was like. And now you could be somebody who accidentally kills somebody. You could be somebody who has to watch, I don't know.
Well, I think we're gonna start bringing this to an end, because it is literally a never-ending conversation.
Yeah, it is. What happens when you die
is not
has
simply
so many sides of the mirror.
Go to heaven and hell. That I believe that's the most basic aspect of what it is. It is nothing what we experience and nothing what we've explored. It is ridiculously complex, and it's one of those things that just be the best person you can be in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And don't judge other people for being what they're meant to be at this lifetime. But that's hard to do when it's extreme.
Yeah.
And because we don't agree with that, and we should never agree with it. And I think we're moving past the aspect of what that is now. And I think the learning in the darkness is done. At least the twisted versions of it. And we're moving into another stage of understanding. But what happens if time isn't really there, and the very first time we walk into the physical realms are created, we're just starting that whole process again? So it's like it's so, maybe we're stuck in a loop. The whole universe is, and we're never going to get out. Like, you could go on and on and on and on.
But I don't like that.
Well, I seen it.
Okay.
That version.
Okay, just chill for a minute here.
Yeah.
Let's say we are stuck in a loop. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So what?
Yeah.
Because you can be attached to, I don't want to be stuck in a loop. So now you're going to actually know what it's like to be stuck in a loop. So the best thing you can do is say, okay, cool. I don't want to base the energies of my life on the fear of being stuck in a loop. So I'm going to let that go.
And now this whole conversation is...
We're stuck in a loop in this. Can we move on from this? Do you guys feel like that you learned some things, or it's kind of expanded your awareness? Like, what if you were to ask the question, because it was what, happens after you die, what do you guys see as what happens? What's your relationship with the meaning of the question in and of itself?
Yeah, and maybe more specific questions, because one of the most interesting things, I went to a place in the universe that was completely black, and I had to travel for a very, very, very long time, and it was a tiny little pinpoint of light that eventually I got to. When I got to that pinpoint of light, that was heaven.
Yeah.
And everybody in this physical reality has to grow as one group. And when we let go of all the negativity and fear, and we finally grow together as one soul, one group of souls, and bring ourselves all up, we'll remember where our true home is. But right now, we created this experiment that literally is simply, we're in an experiment that has forgotten what it is. And the true place, you could say it's like a matrix, and the true place is literally in that spot, but we have to overcome all our stuff around the twisted aspects of who we are in order to grow and rise high enough that we can see our home again. Like, it could go on and on and on and on, but it could be that simple, that simply if everybody works together and grows as a human being, we'll discover that we're simply in a video game, and this is all an illusion, and then we finally go home. Anyway, I'm just throwing that out there, because it could be that. And we're always going to be this way until that time. But I mean, that's just something else I threw in there, because it shows the complexities of what that really means. And none of it matters, only now, in this moment, because this is the only part that we could feel that is truly real.
Yeah.
Everything else is
it's a coming together of everything. But, yeah.
So I think we need to let this part go. We'll talk forever. So.
All right,
I'll leave it to you.
We're gonna do some little channelings, okay? So, I want to go visit a black hole. I can't explain why that was the thing that came up inside me that I was gonna channel. a black hole. I was going to ask my higher self to take me a black hole, and then we're going to see what comes, okay? Based upon this conversation or something we don't know about. Okay. So I'm going to relax. Just a moment here. Alright, so it's about transformation of oneself. Because I'm standing before God, or I'm standing before my higher self, I'm standing before the cosmic consciousness, and I'm saying black hole. And I'm showing the sensation that came to me. And it's taking a very long time, is what it feels like, that I'm in the process of being there, or in the process of understanding the message. But I see the reconstruction of myself in a way. And that's the first thing that comes to me. It's what's interesting is a black hole is literally deconstructing our universe. And there's something important to its purpose. To us, it's like you could say a garbage disposal. It's kind of a scary concept because it warps time. It's completely, it's just, it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows and it sucks everything in there. It's kind of a scary anomaly, and it's hard to wrap our head around what that means. Imagine in time our sun blows up, it becomes a black hole, and now what do we make of our current reality? It's kind of scary. I feel that the black hole, as it pertains to the conversation, is kind of like how some people might feel when they reach the end of their life and they're afraid of having to accept that they don't exist anymore. And how do they let go of their life? How do they even let go of the very concept of I'm not me anymore? I'm like a dead person now? Like, it's a mind puzzler, you know? And so many people, if you're going to be born here, you're going to have to die. And you have to face this reality. You will have to face this reality. And it's going to be as scary as getting sucked into this unknown black hole event. It's going to warp time. It's going to warp your existence. It's going to warp everything. And how do we accept death? How do we accept transformation? How do we completely let go of what once was? I feel like older generations, and even for me, I look back, I see time today, and I see the way it was when I was growing up, and I'm almost 40, so, but you can imagine someone who's 80, and they're looking at the way things were when they were growing up, and how much things have changed, and there's something familiar about the past, and there's something unfamiliar about the world. And it's like everything that we were familiar with is been sucked into a black hole, and all it exists is in our memory. We'll never be able to experience it or see it or feel it in that familiar way ever again. And it was a part of our childhood, which is the part of our lightest, most innocent memories, our most beautiful, brightest parts of life, you could say. Because when all that passion, all that ambition turns into the long and drawn out day after day after day after day of the adulthood, and then it becomes this new experience as you get into the older years, and now your children are having children of their own, and things are constantly revolving, constantly going around and around, but they're changing in their dynamic. Somehow the black hole is speaking to us about this, about the importance of change, about the importance of transformation. I still feel like it's very hard for me to actually get into a black hole, almost like I need to choose a specific black hole. And in order to actually interpret its energy, interpret its existence, interpret its specific personality, its specific existence, do you feel that a black hole could be a future lifetime for you? That you could be a star that goes through the ages of time, born into being a star, shining as a star, and then one day dying and becoming a black hole. And what does that mean to you, that you could exist as a celestial body? Is that even conceivable? So no wonder a black hole, because it is about death, the death of the star. We're talking about what happens after we die. Well, what happens to a star after it dies? It becomes a black hole. What does that mean to you? Kind of puts things into perspective in a totally new way, just by understanding that. But this consciousness of the black hole is benevolent, is kind, is not wanting to terrify or scare anybody, is simply wanting to present the deconstruction of a universe, is actually the transformation of its identity, is changing in time, like the child's memories into the fully grown adult, and the fully grown older adult, right? Like getting up there in the ages and getting close to a transformation event, and what time looks like through those eyes and what has been seen. Okay, that's what I meant to share.
What happens if a black hole is simply the other side of a star?
It was Kuan Yin that revealed that idea.
The idea is that as everything being sucked into the black hole on the other side is like a star.
Yes.
That gives off all the energy into another universe.
Yep.
It's something to think about. Yeah, black holes are very interesting.
Yeah.
And we have no idea. Physically, scientists have no idea what they really truly are.
Yeah.
The suns, I don't think they really truly understand what a sun is either.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary because it's the giver or taker of life.
Yeah.
I've seen whole universes be born from a black hole that reversed itself and let all its energy go and created it can destroy a galaxy and reform a galaxy almost instantaneously. It's insane. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic, but yeah, but it's black holes are very, very interesting, and it is about transformation and of the universe.
Yeah.
So anything to say about that? What do you think?
Well,
about your journey?
Makes me want to go actually find a specific black hole, something that we've identified as a name, as an image, and I want to go visit that as a soul.
Well, the center of your galaxy would be a good one, because every center of our, especially this galaxy, because it's the one where we exist in.
Yes.
So what is that? What I think the black holes in the center of galaxies have something. They're different than the ones that are rogue, that are just wandering in space. They probably have a different purpose.
There was a while ago, I did a video. I was asked if I could look into, there was gonna be two black holes colliding, and then if I could look into what that event. And in the energy world, they were actual, like one was a divine feminine, one was a divine masculine. They were lovers. And I saw them dancing and falling in love with one another, and that one would have to sort of, it was like one was going to have to be the leader. This is the best I can remember. It was all about love and falling in love, and one was going to be a little more dominant than the other, and that they would merge, and there would be an acceptance of one's energy over the other's energy, but they would fall in love, and that they would be intertwined for forevermore. And it was a love story. And that's kind of beautiful, you know? Not what we think about with black holes as a love story, you know?
And there is very much just talking about male and female, and I come across energies that are more male and more female, and some that are exactly both. So I look at there's 3 different types of energies out there, but there's really only 2. But it's the variation of what it is that each one is. Every one of us have male and female attributes, but yes. Male can be more dominant, female can be more dominant.
Yeah.
And or you could have exactly 50-50. They're extraordinary souls to meet because they're not very common when you have 50% male and 50% female. Yeah. It's a very interesting soul to come across. Very unique. And you could look at your soul and say, well, what is mine? What percentage are male or female? Well, what happens if, you could say like twin flames, or you could call it whatever you want, but when two souls come to the physical reality, maybe every soul is 50-50. But when we choose to come here, we get separated into two parts. And at some point throughout time, we come together again, just like the two black holes. Yeah. It's one again.
Yeah.
You know, it's something to think about. So I always see this, there's a lot of the feminists and whatever what I call the male attributes, masculine idiocy. You can call it whatever you want, because that's to me what it is. When you take something and you think you're better than another soul, another person, like males all suck, females all suck, it's a very stupid way of looking at life, because we are both extremely important. We both need to work together as equals, because when we think we're better than the other one, we'll never get out of this chaos cycle that we're in. So we need to actually work together, and embrace the differences. Because when we embrace the differences in humanity, that's when we start to really grow. It's when we point out the differences. And now I'm more important than you is where the cycle is never going to stop. Right. And so we just need to be equals. Yeah. And what is wrong with that? Right. This is why people.
I think where you're alluding to is the broadcasting that you know, women aren't given enough respect, and I think there's so much variation of how people know how to present themselves as loving people or corrupt people. And you can be a corrupt woman, you can be a corrupt man, and there's the loss of your true sense of self and sense of strength as a woman who is a woman. And as a strong woman who is a woman, and as a strong man who is a man, and who is a man with more feminine qualities, is not a weak man, is still a very gentle and beautiful man. And so it comes back to being true to who you are in the spirit of who you are, and not letting anything in this world say that I think it's the broadcasting of this idea that one person is going through this in one company, and that this proves that this is an issue, you know, broad issue. But I think we need to just start empowering what is creating the insecurities and the desperate voice that nobody hears us, and I'm going to get louder until you do hear me, and then you do what I say, because what I say is the only way that's real. And it's just we need to really get back into the balance and the foundations.
And strength is this physical strength and spiritual strength, and that could go on and on and on and on. Strength is, like, for instance, women that go through birthing process. Yeah. You cannot say that they're weak. It's one of the hardest things I've ever seen anybody go through. And you have a man that can lift a lot of weights, stronger physically. Yeah. But is he physically stronger? Yes. But to put that guy through the same process, he's going to be in a mental institution for the rest of his life, because he couldn't handle the birthing process, because he turned into a blithering idiot and now shakes in a corner for the rest of his life until he dies. Anyway, I'm just making it ridiculous extreme situations, but every single person has a purpose, and we all need to look at each other as equals and not above anyone else. And it goes throughout the whole world. Everything needs to be looked at as equals. We should have respect for everything and everyone. And that's how we can learn from different cultures. Every culture has a unique experience. Yeah. But don't say that your culture is better than mine, because that's when you start getting to conflict. Yeah. Your culture is different than mine. And we can learn from both cultures, and then all of a sudden we become stronger, because now we take the two aspects, or the 50,000 aspects that are different, and we merge them together into one. And it's okay that you're different. It's okay that you have a different background, a different color, different race, different sex. It doesn't matter. But when you say and you force things down people's throats to make them have to be that specific way, where we run into problems. How many wars have been created because my way is better than your way? Why don't we take a look at all the systems in the world right now? Every political, social system in the world. Look at them all. Okay, what works in your system? Okay, we take that. Then we create a system and we list all the pros and cons and come up with a system that is better than all of them.
I think that's the concept of one global government.
That is not out to destroy the world. Like, see, the problem is we need a global government or global council of government is a great idea if you don't have a bunch of corrupt maniacs that are actually making the decisions. Because a world government is actually phenomenally beautiful because now we're working together. But when you have a government like that is out to make everybody ridiculously rich, that are rich already, and destroy everyone else, none of them matter, that's a problem. Green energy is not a problem. Renewable energy is not a problem. It's only a problem because people are specifically saying it has to be this specific way. And it's like things have to grow and change, and it takes a bunch of very smart people, very beautiful people, and loving and caring and respectful people to make a world work. You're going to have a lot of mechanics, and you're going to have a lot of people that are scientists, engineers, cleaners, like physical laborers. It doesn't matter. We all have a specific purpose and role. Because without all these people, we can't make a good society. Anyway, I'm gonna do that journey because it's getting late.
I just want to say that it's weird. It's like I do this journey in the black hole, and you feel influenced to talk about the world today as something that is going through perhaps a black hole event where we're getting sucked into a warp of time, a warp of the identity of our world, the warp of the identity of ourselves, trying to find ourselves in this warped event. Because it has to be reconstructed, it has to be redesigned, it has to be revisited. It's going to rebuild itself in a new way, and it might be completely unfamiliar to us. So you could say that we are all going through, as a collective, a death event and a rebirth event in our own lifetimes. And so that is something that can happen too with life after death. Well, sometimes you die and you're still alive in the same body with the same name. Have you ever felt that in your life you went through something so hard that you were not the same on the other side of that experience? Like some part of you died and you can never get that part back, and now you don't know who you are anymore? That is a death event in the current life where you are now rediscovering yourself, and what you should do is embrace it. Because you want to find yourself in a new way, and it's a beautiful thing, not a loss thing. So even the world is trying to find itself in a new way. So anyway,
it's I mean, these conversations are so complex and long.
Yes.
And they could go on in so many ways. It's like one of the times we did a journey into my future, and just before I went through that horrible process, and it's like one of the things that you said,
Night of the Soul.
and one of the things that you said is simply that, why does it have to be so hard?
Yeah.
That says everything. Because it has to be that way in order to learn and to grow a specific way, but does it need to be this hard anymore in this world? When people realize that it doesn't need to be that hard. The reason it had to be that hard because there's other people in our life that don't want to change. So they're going to do whatever they can to destroy your life in order to make their life so it doesn't need to change, even though it was difficult at the time. You, in a way, it's just so complicated because I don't want to get into too much detail on it. What it basically comes down to is that when you make a decision in your life to go a specific way in order to better your life, sometimes that influences everyone else's life around you. And they don't always make it easy for you, even though it should simply be easy. So when you're in a situation that somebody that you could have a partner, you could have a son, a daughter, that makes a decision that they want to do to better their life, just let them do it.
Yeah.
And even don't try to force them to not do it, to keep it a specific way, because it's going to influence your life. So what?
Yeah.
They want to do it, let them do it, and just be as respectful, as good as to them as you possibly can, because when you fight against it, it creates ripples that tear both of you apart and all the people around you.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just let people do and make the mistakes.
Right. Let them follow their heart and see where it guides them, and be supportive of them through the process, because our guides are doing that. Our guides, like, my guides will tell me, are you sure you want to do that? Yeah, I want to do that, you know? And then it's like, oh, maybe I should have given this a little more time. But then they're there through it. They're through, I make the decision, and they're there to support me through the emotional digestion of who I am now and why did I choose that and all that stuff that happened. They don't tell us what to do. They guide us through these processes. And one thing that we can do, like Joe's saying, we need to be supportive of one another. And part of the conversation of, if that is what is true to your heart, if that is how you feel, the most genuinely true to the heart of who you are, is to follow that, then I'm 100% behind you. And I'll be there, you know, whenever it gets hard, I'll be there to help you. Whenever you want to celebrate, I'll be there to celebrate with you. And that is how we actually work together with love. Take the judgment out and just be there to talk. And just say, you know, this is how this decision of yours makes me feel. But I'm not here to imprison you. I'm not here to tell you what to do and what not to do, because I myself don't always know what to do or what not to do. And so I need to make decisions too, just like you need to make decisions. So let's just follow our hearts, and then we work through in conversation the best way we can to make it the most powerful and enriching decisions.
Even if we know that the decisions that they're going to make are going to hurt them.
Yeah.
If
Yes.
they ultimately have to do that, just let them make it. We can't force them not to make a decision. Anyway, so...
You gonna do the Seraphim?
Yeah, I can do the Seraphim. I gotta get a little closer to the mic, because when I talk, sometimes my voice gets really quiet, and I think we're going to get
a little bit of
light
sunshine
coming in here soon, so I'll see if I can at least stop it sooner than later. Just keep it off the video camera. Okay. I'm in a room, and there's wings that fill the one wall, and wings fill the next wall, and the next wall, and the next wall. And then all of a sudden, I'm in space, and there's wings that are all around me that go down in a tunnel as far as I can see, and above as far as I can see. And I'm sitting there floating in space now, and I'm surrounded by wings. And I'm in a tunnel that goes, as far as I can see, one direction, up and down, but it could be left and right. It doesn't, when you're in space, really, is there what ways, north, south, east, and west, in a way. It's very difficult to pinpoint what direction is up or down, left or right. And I'm sitting here, and the wings start to spin. I'm in a vortex, and I slowly get pulled apart. And I'm being pulled in a specific, you could say, to the left of me. I'm being pulled to the left side of me, and I'm literally, you can see the energy pulling on my face and my whole body, and I'm being pulled into one specific part of the vortex. So I just allow myself to be pulled into that specific direction. And now the vortex switches directions and being pulled that way, and I just go flying down that thing, and I just allow my soul to be pulled in that direction. And I'm being pulled really, really fast. I'm being pulled around the world, and I'm going really fast around the world. And then I stop, and I'm standing in space, above a world. And I'm looking down at this world. And there's a angel that's behind me that's gigantic wings. Like, I mean, I can't explain how big these wings are. And there's so many of them. And I'm looking down at this planet, and the planet's reddish in color. And it asked me if I remember this place. And I feel like I remember this place, but there's a lot of emotions around this, a lot of sadness. And I end up going to the world, and I'm actually physically shaking from this. And the world is dust. It's destroyed. It's just like, it'll be like Mars, you could say, but it's just like one big massive desert. All there is sand and reddish sky. And the sand has a reddish color to it because of the sky. And I just cry nonstop. And I cry 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 for a very, very long time. And then I become part, like I'm literally covered in the sand over time. And I'm still crying, and my tears go into the world itself. And there's a deep, now I'm underground, and there's like my tears are dripping down into a massive reservoir of water underneath the sand. So I'm become like part of my tears, and I fall into the depths of this place. And now I'm going down underneath. I feel a lot better now. It's like I felt so much better, so much lighter. And I'm going down the river, underground river here. And I'm just following it down, and I'm just basically like water itself. And I go down to this great big huge waterfall that has many places, like there's like it's almost like a volcanic shaft, and there's water coming from multiple directions that go down into it. And I'm falling down, and I end up being stopped just before. And there's like like part way down I'm stopped, and there's this angel that's way above me again that fills the full shaft with its wings, like from above. And he pulls all my parts back together, so I'm more like a physical body again. And there's a ledge that appears that I step onto, and he becomes it's really small, and he stands on my shoulder, and he says, there's two parts to him. There's one that is on my right shoulder, one on my left shoulder, and he's connected. And then there's another version that floats above me, that's a bit taller, a bit bigger than the other ones, but and it's like, this is how it's meant to describe it. And I have to walk forward into the cave of this place, and it's ancient ruins, and they're in mint condition, like they just look like they've never been touched for a very long time. And they're big huge statues. And so I'm just walking down this huge underground cavern with these big huge statues as I'm walking forward. And there's a pyramid that's two-sided, like it has a pyramid, and then underneath it the pyramid's facing on the other side. So it's pyramid facing down, pyramid's facing up. This is emotional for me for some reason. And I know this place. I think I created this place. And I'm very agitated by this place. And I remember being here. I created this shape and it has multiple colors that it gives off. And as I get closer to it, it actually recognizes me. It starts to glow and pulsate with energy. And the place is full with people again. The planet's back to like full lush, beautiful planet. And it's like nothing ever happened. And I touch it, and everything just pulled back into it again. And it's a dead planet again. And I flip it the other way, and it's a lush planet full of life. And I just beat on this thing, and it doesn't work. It never worked properly. It's like I just keep hitting it over and over and over and over again. And the angel touches my shoulder, and it's like I just sit down, and this whole thing isn't, it's like, is it real? This is a real place. That I do know. It was a real moment in time where I created this thing, and it destroyed the world. It absorbed every living thing within seconds into itself. And everything is inside it, and I don't know how to get it to release it. It won't release it. If it does, it's only for a split second. And I spent my whole lifetime trying to get this to release life, and I never could figure out how to reverse it. So all the souls are still trapped inside. So what do you do with that on your consciousness, on your soul, that the whole planet is now trapped inside of this machine that you created, that you can't get it out no matter how hard you try? You live with that, and there has to be a way. So you could say there's a part of myself that's never left here, that still tries to release the souls from this machine that never will give up what it has taken. And so I ask this angel if there's anything that he can do. What is this exactly happening here? So I become part of the angel itself, and I'm looking at this machine, and I spend thousands, trillions of years, you could say. It's really hard to explain how much time goes by to try to figure this out. So I send messages all through the universe, and there's many souls that come, and they can't figure out how to release the souls that are trapped within inside this. I think I figured out something. And the only way that I could release the souls is to trap myself. And so that's what I do. I allow the machine to take my own soul, or part of my own soul, into itself, so it could be release everything that's living. And I'll have to stay here inside this machine, because as soon as I leave, it will reverse and take all the souls from the planet into itself. So the question is, what would you do in this situation? Would you basically leave your part of your soul into this machine in order for the whole planet to live? It's a question for everyone that's listening. So that's what I do. And as soon as I do that, the machine itself shatters and blows into a million pieces. And the planet is back to normal. And the angel is, we're looking down at the planet, and it's a blue planet, and it's beautiful, and the angel is again standing behind me. That's the message. Anyway, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. So...
Very hard, actually. The feelings that you get in journeys are hard to put into words sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm following my mind through everything that you were sharing. And I'm just visualizing the planet, because it sounds like everything that was alive got sucked into this creation, which was underground originally, or did it get pulled underground?
No, it was underground.
Yeah, and that event, you were trying to figure out, what is this machine is going in reverse? It wasn't supposed to pull the life in, it was supposed to express life. But perhaps it couldn't express life unless... I'm just very curious about...
What was I originally trying to do?
Yeah.
It was kind of like we talk about trying to enhance life.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's also the question of what would you do in order to save lives.
Right.
When you're the fault. I think that's the big part of the message is like, what would you do if you created a situation that caused so much suffering in the world? Would you be able to sacrifice yourself in order to be able to help many? And it's like, because you never know what's going to happen. No. But energy itself, the world, it's like, what is time exactly?
Right.
It was a very weird situation, and very much to me a real event that I basically lived my whole lifetime trying to resolve a situation that I could not resolve in that lifetime. And so I spent my whole lifetime trying to fix a problem that you created that you had no way of figuring out how to reverse it. And this machine itself is like, it became sentient in a way and decided that it wanted to absorb the life and never let it go. So, and the shape itself is important, and I remember that shape. But it's like it literally absorbed all the souls of the world, everything, and didn't want to let any of it go. So it's also about mistakes of what you do in other lifetimes. Are you able to forgive yourself?
Yeah, that would be considered murdering, but not intentionally doing so.
But how many? But the idea of your soul.
Yeah.
You have to forgive that part of yourself.
Yeah.
And that part of itself that originally did it has to forgive themselves. Yeah. And I think that angel was just showing me a part of myself that maybe I never forgave, or was never able to finish and figure it out. But sometimes you go back to a situation that you spent lifetimes of trying to figure out how to resolve, that you've learned so much in your whole life. Then you go back to it and you go, oh, that's what I have to do. Yeah. Now I have a decision I got to make. Yeah. Am I going to do that or not? And it's how many times you find yourself working at something exhaustedly, and then you just stop. You go to bed, you wake up the next day, and it's like, holy shit, that was so obvious. I know this is more of an extreme level, but it's like, it could be as simple as that. Sometimes we just need to step away from something and come back to it to figure out how to resolve it.
Yeah.
And sometimes your soul can do these types of things, and when you do know how to do it, are you willing to take the risk or the consequences of how to correct it? And it's like when you choose to sacrifice yourself for the many, that is the key.
Yeah.
Because there's a higher power involved that says, no, we're not going to make you suffer. You've suffered enough. So by making that decision, now you set yourself free.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Quiet conversation.
Yeah, 1 hour and 20 minutes. I think I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching and sharing and being a part of this experience with us. Mm-hmm. We've been through a lot, so we have a lot we can talk about and a lot we can share. And so, keep commenting. And we look forward to the next Joe and Abbey video, so you can provide us with some topics.
And you never know what you're going to get.
You really don't know.
So that's the last thing I thought was going to happen.
There's going to be a lot to reflect on today for us.
Yeah.
So
thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. If you are interested in having me take a look at anything going on in your life through a session, I would be really delighted to help you energetically and just get some perspective. Go to AbbeyNormalsWisdomQuest.com to book a session with me. Go to Patreon if you want to join a group environment where we're exploring different topics for each and every month. Check it out, patreon.com/AbbeyNormalsWisdomQuest. And Joe?
You can go to AmonRossAwakening.com for my spiritual work, and Joseph Bradley Wars for my Northern Lights, and Yukon Skies for Northern Light Tours.
You guys catch all that? Amon Ross the Awakening for sessions with Joe. He is an amazing Northern Lights photographer. And if you want to check out his Northern Light photos, which are phenomenal, he's been taking photos in the Northern Lights for like 15 years. So go to josephbradleyauroras.com to take a look. And also, Joe has started a Northern Lights touring business here in the Yukon. Mm-hmm. And it's an opportunity for you to cross that off the bucket list to go see Northern Lights and hang out with Joe and Abbey. So go to yukonskies.com if you would like to take a vacation and see the Northern Lights. So that's what we got.
And sometimes you go visit an angel. Sometimes they take you places you never thought you were going to go.
Exactly. Sometimes you go to a black hole and then bam. All right, have a great day, everybody.
Take care.